So like with all the other ones, this is what my brush looks like. It's really filled with conditioner. So it's like I kind of start at the bottom, and this is a little tanglier, so I spend a few minutes kind of just going over it. And at this point, if it's gotten dry or anything like that, you can spritz it. Just make sure you still have a lot of conditioner in it. So sometimes you have to add a little more conditioner because when you spritz, the water can rinse the conditioner away. So I just kind of keep working at it, and it's got a little snarl in it. But sometimes you can work it out without having to cut it out. This one I probably end up having to cut. But it's like it's not a big thing. It's like it's much better to just sort of snip something off than rip the hairs, and then you'll have like all these fractured, damaged hairs, if you really pull on it. So, I usually do try and get as much hair away from the tangle as possible. So there's that tangle. You can kind of see it. So instead of like yanking and pulling, I do just sort of snip. I just kind of hold it, so like between the tangle, like that. Separate out as much hair as possible. A little bit more. Okay. So that's the snarl. So all I do is I just kind of pull it taut and then just do a little snip like that. And then that's it. It happens all the time. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just like very curly hair tangles. So, it's like you try and be as careful as you can, but I always end up snipping something out. But, it's totally fine. As long as you don't have like big wads of hair coming out, then, a little snip here and there isn't going to make a big difference. So our hair's so thick, and the curls are really forgiving. So I'm just working my way up. I combed out the bottom, so you can kind of see the difference between the two hairs, where I combed, and like this is where I sort of park the tangles. So I'm kind of moving tangles down from the bottom, and I'll move them to here and sort of park them all, and then I'll take them out sort of one by one, and that'll keep me having to comb all the way out for every single sort of little tangle that I get to. So, I can tell I've got a tangle here, but I kind of can clear out a little spot. And then I just kind of keep moving up until I get to the part of the scalp. So now I know that this is completely combed, and you can still see how much conditioner is in there. So I comb down, so now you can kind of see the difference between combed and uncombed. There's a definite difference with the conditioner. It makes a big difference. And how snarled it is, and how it just kind of like keeps it calm and weighted. So now that I have this kind of mat, I don't try and like comb down all the way. What I do is I kind of get as far as I can, and I stop. And then I start at the bottom where the ends are still smooth, and I'm kind of clearing a spot. I'm sort of clearing a path. So here's the first tangle, and I move the first tangle down. And then I don't go all the way out the ends just yet, because that would just be kind of like wearing out the ends. So now I'm moving the next tangle sort of down and parking it next to it again, sort of like the beads. I'm just moving the beads out one by one, and so instead of taking a whole bead and just moving it all the way down, I sort of park each one and then move them in like little shifts. So I'm moving to the next one, and a little snarl, so I just kind of work on it, but again, I try and make sure that I don't hear any noises or anything like that. It should be a pretty quiet process when you comb. Okay, so now they're all here, so you can see the ends I just had combed out are starting to tangle, but that's because all the tangles are parked here, and the rest of the hair has been combed, and you can see that it's kind of starting to divide. If you do like that, you can see, it's just naturally dividing. So I twist it like this, and keep it gripped like this so that it doesn't hurt and I don't put any more strain on any of the rest of the hair. And again, I'm just moving them closer and closer to the bottom, but it's like I want to try and get to the bottom, or not use the bottom too much. So that's why I do it in stages, and it seems to help my hair with wear and tear. Because by the time your hair is really long, it's been kind of going through this process, if you do your hair once a week, it's been going through this process, 50, 52 times a year. For, if it's 10 years old, then it's like 500 times it's had like a brush kind of go through it. So, the less wear and tear, the better. It'll just make everything last longer. So now I've combed all the way out down to here, and this is the last little tuft. And then I start at the very bottom, and I try and be really gentle with the ends too because they snarl up really easily. So I just make sure that I just comb really lightly. And sometimes the ends take longer than anything, but you have to be really careful with them because again, they're very fragile. And the longer you can keep ends, the longer your hair can grow. Because if you destroy your ends, then they aren't going to be there keeping your length. You know, it's like the length is held here, so it's like if you destroy all the way up to here, then you know your hair can only grow to this point. But if you can keep your hair longer, then it can grow, you know, as long as you keep your ends. Okay, so my hair has now been combed,